CatSynth TV.
What's up, everybody? JB here for CatSynth TV. Today, we're going to be taking a look at really an amazing book. This is Moebius, Arzac, Destination Tassilli, Corpus Final. Before we get started on that, and this is going to be a long one, we're going to ask you to please subscribe to this channel for more cultural content coming out regularly. Please consider underwriting the efforts. There are links to Patreon, Ko-Fi, etc. down below there. You see those links. And if you like what you see here, please share this out, tell a friend, let people know about this amazing book and this equally amazing channel. You know what I'm talking about? Let's dive right into it. Moebius, Arzac, Destination Tassilli, Corpus Final. All right, a little bit of context, just really briefly. This is a book, a posthumously released book by Moebius. Moebius, the pen name of Giraud, one of the most incredible illustrators of the 20th and early 21st century, passed away about a decade ago now. This is something that has been put together from the work that he was working on and was left incomplete at his passing. So this book, this is something that came out over the past decade. We've seen little bits and pieces of this masterwork come out in different forms, but this is a compilation of everything that exists for this trilogy, this proposed trilogy of books kind of compiled into one spot. Again, let's look at the cover here, and I'm just going to give you a little brief history as I understand it of how this thing came to be. This came to be because there was a proposal from Ridley Scott at one point to make a film out of the Arzac character, one of Moebius's most famous characters, Arzac, the kind of silent, stoic kind of warrior riding this giant concrete pterodactyl, through this alien landscape. Most people in the United States and the English-speaking world became familiar with this character when some of these stories were published in Heavy Metal magazine, right, which is the English language counterpart of the French magazine Metal Hurlant, right? And this character was kind of, if you remember the Heavy Metal animated movie that came out in, what was that, 1982 or 1981, right about there, early 1980s. This character was kind of adapted. Let's just put it this way. It was the inspiration for the final bit of that movie with that character Tarna. It kind of drew a lot of stuff from the Moebius kind of various works which had been published. Of course, this is one of Moebius's most iconic characters, one of his most recognizable characters. And so this was something that perhaps as Giraud, as Moebius, was approaching the end of his life, he wanted to kind of bring this character back and create this final master work. So he started working on this film kind of idea. There were a number of treatments that were written for the different parts of it. Apparently, funding never came through, the film never happened, and so over time, bits and pieces of this work have started to appear. I think chronologically, the first bits that seemed to appear was, if anyone out there is familiar with this, Arzac Rhapsody. This is a number of short animated films which were handled directly by Moebius, which is a fantastic thing. So you get, it's not somebody's interpretation of what these characters should look like or do, but these were done directly by Moebius. These are, perhaps not as fully animated as, 32 frames per second, 32 drawings per second, etc. But it's really, these were done, a lot of these were done in Flash, but it's the strength of the characters and the ideas that make these so wonderful. And you can see some of the things which later would be published in these books first came out in some of these animated bits, and I'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into it. Let's look at the book itself. As I said, Moebius, Arzac, Destination Tassilli. It's a fairly large book, right? It's larger size, and it's also very thick. This was put out, you can see here, this is something that was put out by the Moebius Foundation just in beginning of 2025, I believe. It didn't come out in time for the end of 2024. It just came out earlier this year. And it's a fantastic book. I'm just going to flip through it really quickly here. We'll look at some close-ups in a second, but it's a very substantial book. All of the text is actually in French. So let's kind of go through it section by section. The first third of the book is something that we Moebius fans have known about for a while. For, like I said, about 10 years, like shortly before Moebius's passing at least, I became aware of this book because I saw it online for sale in different versions. And around 2010 or so, I actually picked up a German language version of it, Moebius, Arzac. The German title is Der Raumvermesser. I believe the English translation of the original French title was something along the lines of Arzac the Surveyor, something like that. We'll just take a look at my German language edition right now. Just for comparison, you can see here, look at these pages, and you can see the text, you know, page on the left, page on the right, etc., word balloons, etc. Now, the difference that we see here in this Corpus Final, right, version, the first third of it, we see that here we have the artwork on the pages of the right, but there are no word balloons, right? All of the text is kept on the facing page on the left. And so, you know, of course, the result of this is you get about, like I said, you know, somewhere between 25 and 30% more art per page because you don't have the word balloons covering all of this additional art, which for, you know, the huge Moebius fan, the huge obsessive that I am, it's like, holy mackerel, would you take a look at this? Okay, the story, as you can see here, going through it page by page in this new edition, again, there's no text, but the strength of the storytelling is so strong. The craftsmanship, not only of the art, but the way the story is constructed and the way the, let's put it this way, the way the camera is positioned in each one of these frames, you know, you can get a sense of really what is going on without any text. It's not hard to follow. We look through some of these pages here. Some of these pages, like this one here where we see these eyes and we're going into the eye and we come into this picture of Arzac and he looks back over his shoulder. A lot of these scenes, a lot of the material that was generated for this film proposal made its way to all the other Moebius media through time. So for the first third, essentially we have the material that we have seen before in a different form. And we're just going to flip through some of these pages. Just again, for anyone who has not seen this book before, it's just wow. You know, this is late Moebius. So looking at some of the line work on here, I'm pretty sure that this was done on the Wacom tablet. He was using an illustration tablet. He was drawing digitally a lot towards the end of his life because of vision problems and other physical problems that he was having. But, you know, the man was a drawing machine. I don't know how else to say it. Anyone who has ever seen video of Moebius just sitting at the drawing board, incredibly focused and just being able to just, you know, these illustrations just come out fully formed. It's like a lot of the times, you know, you'll see him at different times doing fast, sketchy things, but when he's working on, you know, a book, these things seem to just flow out of him. And, you know, I mean, I would compare it to something like, you know, Herbie Hancock. You know, he just sits at the piano and he just dashes these things off, and it's just like, how does he do this? Well, of course, it's not just a combination of inspiration, skill, but it's really honing the craft. And this is the kind of masterwork we're talking about, these late period masterworks, like Stravinsky's Agon, one of these works that came late in his life, and it's just as incredible as anything he ever did earlier. Okay, so this is the first third. Between the first third and the second third, between the first and the second part of the trilogy, we have this additional information. We have these additional illustrations. We see here there's a number of Arzac illustrations. There's a couple pages here, and let's just compare these pages here to the pages that we saw earlier. These are pages which appear to have been hand-colored with watercolors, and possibly a combination of watercolors and colored pencil. And we'll compare these pages, as you see here. Now let's look back to where these panels appeared earlier in the book with the digital colors. And you can see the fantastic difference going on here. Again, some more pages. 1-to-1, we're looking at the difference in coloring. I imagine when he was experimenting with which direction he wanted to go with the coloring. We see some alternate illustrations, pages or panels that were redrawn at various times. More experiments with coloring. Some more black and white illustrations. Okay, now we're going to look at the second part of the trilogy. And all of the material from the second part of the trilogy to the end of the book, at this point, this is entirely unreleased material. This is material which has not seen the light of the day until this edition. And oh my goodness, it's amazing art, it's fantastic art, but there's always, in the back of your mind, the sense of, well, what could have been, if this material had been finished. So let's take a look at this. So for the second half, the first thing that we'll notice is the actual stock, the actual paper that it was printed on changes completely. We have this semi-gloss material being used for this first third of the book. If you like, for the next third or the remainder of the book, it's on this matte paper, and you can really see the difference here. Going from this page, I'll just catch it so it catches the light here. And here we've got this matte paper, and the texture is very different. So we get more of a sense of, okay, this is definitely going into the unfinished bit. Looking at some of these illustrations, once again, I mean, it cannot be stressed enough, the incredible draftsmanship, the incredible skill that Moebius possessed, and really unrivaled, in my opinion, in comparison to any other illustrator that I've seen. I mean, just the knowledge of anatomy and the way people move. But even that, you can see here when the movements get a little bit more, or the depiction get almost a little bit more cartoony and exaggerated, you know exactly what these characters are trying to convey without any dialogue. I mean, there's little subtle things like here, the position of the eyes, or here, the way this finger is pointing. It really, really communicates so much just with an outline, essentially. So let's go through some of these pages and the incredible detail. I mean, at times, and this is the other thing about Moebius, is it can change from one page, as we see here, the incredible amount of detail in these rocks falling on this page, to this next page where it's hardly any detail, but it's in order to focus the attention on the character. And just page by page, going through this, all of this unreleased material. Oh my goodness, would you look at that? Just keep going through it. Again, all of this is new to my eyes, or was new when the book arrived. And right here on this same page, we see at the top this very open, not too much detail. And the bottom of the page, an incredible amount of detail. And yet it's cohesive. You can identify it still as being the same artist and the same story, and it's not jarring because he does it with the knowledge of this is what you need to see. Again, the top of the page, this panel, incredibly detailed, and right below it, just the character. And it focuses your attention where it needs to go. And then here we see this is the end of the finished illustrations as such. Okay, and then it goes on. After that, we have all of the notes, and we've got some references to pages. We've got some, not all, of the dialogue that was going to appear on those pages, and some corresponding frames from the pages. Take a close-up of some of this here. We'll see over here. If we look at the top of it, we'll see actually some 8.5 by 11 lined paper with handwritten notes that had additional information that was going to be worked into the script. And then we've got notes on characters on the following pages. Some panels, some alternate panels, some panels that were redrawn at various points. This was very much a work in progress, just notes that he had on the character. And that's the second part of the trilogy. The third part of the trilogy, as we see here, again, it changes again. We still got that matte paper, textured, but it looks very much almost like a film script or a film treatment. And of course, that's because that's what that started out as. It's very sketchy. There's a few more illustrations kind of tucked in there. We've got the story as it is, and then we have some notes at the end of it. The thing that it reminded me very much of is, and the way that it was put together, fans of Hergé, the fantastic Hergé and his character Tintin, known, of course, in the English-speaking world as Tintin, will know about the final unfinished Tintin book, known in French as Tintin et l'Alpha, or in the English-speaking world, Tintin and Alf Art. And I've actually got the English language edition here that was put out by Casterman, which was done in a very similar way. This is a book that kind of compiled all of the existing pages, illustrated as far as they were, as well as sketch pages, and compiled everything together almost like a script, as well as some notes on the other page. And it's another fantastic case, of what could have been. And I think both of these books, kind of going on the precedent for what was done with Tintin et l'Alpha, or Tintin and Alf Art, and the Arzac book, did it in the right way. Because these are, illustrators and creators working at the top of their game. And again, as we saw with, as the Arzac book was progressing, panels were getting redrawn and experiments were being done with the color. So it very much was not a finished work apart from the first book. And to have somebody else finish it would be somebody else's vision, essentially. And it's possible at times, I can think of some of the great unfinished Orson Welles films that were kind of pieced back together or restored in some cases, such as Touch of Evil, etc. Restored, based on Welles's notes and etc. But these works here, especially the works of Moebius, the works of Hergé, these cannot be done by anyone else. I mean, Hergé had his studio and his assistants that worked on it, but Moebius was, very much an auteur. It was one person doing it, and no one can even come close to what he was doing as an illustrator and as a storyteller and as an all-around creator. So it's very much in that same vein. Now, looking at the book, once again, fantastic large book, all of this stuff in here, just the first third of it especially, just the fantastic colors, the way that these pop off the page. Some Moebius fans out there aren't fans of the digital coloring. that went on later. I am, as a matter of fact. I mean, I'm just wherever he was going, with the exception of some of the stuff that he was doing in let's say the mid to late 80s. I love it all. It's all fantastic to me. So this work is absolutely essential. And unlike, let's say, some of the other posthumously released Moebius works, such as the Inside Moebius editions that came out, or the Major book, we reviewed those. You can see links to those up ahead there, which may be only of appeal as to the hardcore Moebius fans. If you like the Arzac books, you need to get this. You need to get this. And as Arzac is one of Moebius's more well-known character, probably the most well-known character, if you want to see some fantastic art, you definitely need to get this book. This is absolutely essential. And as I said, there will never be another like Moebius, and that's okay, because he was singular. He was a singular talent, and there are many who have been influenced by his work, myself included as an illustrator. There will never be another who can do what he did, in that way. He's like Stravinsky, or Frank Zappa, or just any of the other greats who kind of carved out a singular niche and influenced all these other people. But it's like when you see it, or when you hear it, or whatever the case may be, it's that person's work, and it's very personal, and at the same time, it's like it can touch people globally. So how do I rank this? I mean, it's impossible for me to rank it anything other than 5 stars and A+, and fantastic, saying flying concrete pterodactyls, going all over the place. This is one of these quintessential Moebius works, which is absolutely, please, this needs to find a place in your library. If you're a serious fan of bande dessinée, comics, graphic novels, however you want to say it, this is something that you need to check out. Absolutely.
To find out more about Moebius, Arzac, Destination Tassilli, Corpus Final, please visit these websites and check out the description below this video. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to CatSynth TV.
Hey, you're watching CatSynth TV!